Hello, I'm Orestria, a goth girl in Japan, and these are my seasonal impressions for spring 2023. And at least this season made it easy on me. Usually there are a lot of shows that I watch like 6 episodes of before I'm sure I want to drop it, but this season, I dropped most of the field in like 2 episodes, so that was a kindness. I think 10 shows in the Nope section might be a record. That's not to say there's nothing good here at all. There are a couple of real gems at the top of this list. So let's get into it. And we start, as always, with the Nope category. Shows I think are not worth your time. Yusha ga Shinda. Our main character is in lust with his childhood friend. And anything thigh-shaped, I suppose. He attempts to save her from a demon by setting a trap. He fails to lure the demon with his meat. But thankfully, the legendary hero saves her. Then said hero falls in the trap and dies. The main character convinces the villagers to hide the corpse because no one would believe their story, and everyone would think the villagers were involved with the hero's murder. Our main character wakes up the next morning, and for some reason, he now looks like the hero, which he uses to sexually harass his childhood friend, taking advantage of his knowledge that she had a thing for the hero. That is everything that happened in the brief amount of the show I was able to stomach. It's nowhere near explicit enough to fit my just be porn qualification, but the ecchi elements were intolerable. Boku no kokoro no yabai yatsu. Our main character is the weird kid in the back of the classroom, and the show is, I think, presenting him as an edgelord. But they've gone way over the line, and he gives full serial killer vibes. Like, he fantasizes about killing his classmates, especially the main girl, and this is a rom-com, so that's disturbing. He literally carries around a box cutter. He also looks like a boring main character guy in design, and the girl is the class idol, beautiful, does modeling. It's also just generally cringy. Like, background characters are talking about masturbation techniques. There's a guy who tells a girl he likes that he likes her because she's fat, so she shouldn't diet. I did not make it through the episode, and based on the summary I read to help me write this, I'm glad I didn't. Isekai one-turn kill Nei-san. Ane Dohan no isekai seikatsu hajimemashita. Our main character pulls a Yusuke Urameshi, and as a reward, gets isekai'd. His big sister is so obsessed with him that as soon as she suspects he's been isekai'd, she puts herself in a coma to be able to follow him. A bunch of the humor in this setup is meant to be the way the older sister wants to bone her younger brother while he resists. But that's not all. He's mediocre, she's insanely overpowered, and so there's also a liar revealed type plot where he's pretending he's the strong one while she covers for him by killing everything for him. In conclusion, yuck. Opus colors. I'm about to spend time out of my finite lifespan explaining the concept of this show, even though the concept does not matter. We're in a near future in which the only notable technological difference was people are making perception art, which is like VR art, but you don't need a headset because it comes out of frames. This being an anime, we're following a bunch of fucking high schoolers who are going to school to do perception art. There are 2 roles in making these art pieces. Graders, who design the piece, and artists who art the piece. We're told that to make perception art, you need a grader and an artist, as a pair. But they're on divided campuses, and they fucking hate each other. So it's a terrible system. You can't make artistic partners this way, so it's against the entire concept of what we're told goes into making this art. The only reason this system exists is to exacerbate the our childhood friend is cold to us now conflict that the show is actually about. Why is there even sci-fi art? It's just set decoration. It's not doing a good job of that. It actively makes the plot worse. The art direction, ironically, is boring. The storytelling? They do a reveal in case you weren't smart enough to notice that these boys from the flashback are these boys in the current day despite the fucking telltale hair colors. I like cute boys more than the next anime fan, but cute boys is not a plot. If you want art, watch Blue Period. If you want sci-fi, watch Ghost in the Shell. If you want high school boys love drama, watch Given. If you want wild, colorful art, watch Flip Flappers, Wonder Egg, Madoka. Life is short. Watch something else. Anything else. 異世界でcheat skill を手にした俺は、現実世界をも無双するレベルアップは人生を変えた。Yo, I have a sore throat. You can't have fucking titles like that. Jesus Christ. Hey! Do you remember when I reviewed that offensively fat-phobic isekai where the point was that evolving made the main character go from fat to hot? This is by the same author. Fucker just really hates fat people. This one is a bit more sympathetic to fat people, by which I mean it doesn't go on long rants about how smelly the guy is. How long do you think it would take to establish that someone has had a rough life because they're fat? Is your answer more or less than 9 minutes? Because that's how long this show spends on it. Our main character inherits a house from his grandpa, pissing off all of the rest of his family, but they're assholes, so fuck them. And there's a secret portal in this house which leads to another world. And you would think with all the focus on how hard life is for a fat guy that the show was trying to have some realism. But no, because of course there's a game interface with levels and shit. The house on the other side is so well defended and equipped that our main character can literally just poke enemies from safety, effortlessly killing powerful monsters, immediately becoming over-leveled and overpowered as fuck, which, in fucking Miku's mind, strong means being sexy, and he turns into a ripped anime guy overnight. Again, because the only reason in Miku's mind to have a fat character is to help them not get fat. Getting not fat is how you have a good life. Do you know what real strong people look like, Miku? This is what real strong men look like. Rokuto no Onatachi. This is the most tempted I've ever been to just read my notes instead of making a proper script, but I will spare you that. Our main character is hounded and bullied by his delinquent classmates in a kind of world where there's a bunch of high school gangs. With the help of a magic scroll, he gets an enchantment? Curse? On him that makes bad girls fall hopelessly in love with him. Our main femme character is a tall girl, and she's the biggest badass around. They set her up by having her basically single-handedly take out a Yakuza family. Except thanks to this fucking premise, she, and basically all other feminine characters, are magically mind-controlled, losing their willpower and pledging their allegiance to this guy. He even has the gall to say he wants to protect her, to protect his manliness. As a bonus, I also just hate this art design, and that's obviously a matter of taste. I know, I'm always complaining that I want more feminine characters, but this is not the way that I want them. Edomae elf. There's a shrine that has a goddess living there, although she's really an elf, in a reverse isekai situation. She's also an otaku hikikomori, and I'm thinking, I don't think I've ever watched an anime about shrine maidens before. I'd be lying if I said there was no charm to this, but there's a lack of animation. There's a lot of pans over still shots, background Tokyo shots, chibi shots. And with comedy, you can get away with more of this. But in this show, for me, it was literally to the extent that it was stopping the jokes from landing. This show just feels slow. Oh, we also get to watch the Shrine Maiden go to school, because it can't be an anime if we don't go to school. There's also a mystery about the woman in white that the Shrine Girl saw when she was a child, and it could not more obviously just be the elf. There's a world where this got more support in the realms of animation and direction, and it would be really charming, but in its current state, I feel like I'm watching nothing. Yamada-kun to level 999 no koi o suru. Why are romantic main character guys like this? Our main character gets into an MMORPG because of her boyfriend, and then he dumps her. After taking out her frustration on some rando in the game, she decides she's going to go to an in-real-life game event. She knows her ex will be there, so she literally goes broke to get beautified before going to try to make her ex jealous. She encounters the guy she'd bitched out in the game, who it turns out is one of the most famous players in the game. Since her ex is gushing over him, she pretends to be his girlfriend. I'm glad it's about university-aged people, but this plot is not it. Even if it wasn't slow, and even if the jokes landed, it still wouldn't be my cup of tea. The marginal service. Brian Knight Raider is a cop, one whose partner was just killed by a perp who seemingly disappeared. I can't do that voice, I have no voice today. He ends up getting booted from the police force and picked up by an underground group who let him in on the great secret. There are monsters living among us. It's Men in Black, but with cryptids more so than aliens. It is kind of neat that there are so many foreigner characters in this show, even though it's set in Japan. The action's good, but not good enough to get me past one huge fucking problem. This show was okay until I realized there's one girl. Her first line in the whole show is about her beauty. Her second line is that she likes meat. Her name is Lyra Candyheart, and she's the beauty mechanic. When they're fighting a monster, she's taking a selfie instead of helping. They also introduce a mascot character, and he immediately jumps into her tits. Why is this the second time in 2 videos I have to talk about a titty mascot?
There's literally no one in the world that I don't hate right now.
Also, just fuck this camera angle. Jeez, fuck you.
The fine section is for shows that I think work. If it's got a trope you love, a genre you love, a character you love, these can be a great time. But if it's not your thing, they may not be worth it.
Mahou Shoujo Magical Destroyers. You know what I've always thought about magical girl shows? I like them, but I wish they had more masculine energy. Let's have a guy main character. And no, he's not a magical girl. He's just their commander. Was anime a mistake? We're in a dystopian future Tokyo where the government have attacked all nerdiness. Otaku rounded up and put into concentration camps. We're watching the resistance, who have taken back Akihabara as their base of operations. And I guess only guys can be otaku because all of the background characters are guys. Never mind that we all know Fushoji actually run the anime world. The exceptions are a few magical girls. Unfortunately, I don't like them much as characters either. Blue's only characteristic is being a slut. And there's nothing wrong with being a slut. Which I say as a virgin asexual. But it's a man-driven industry, and so when they make a slutty character just to laugh at her when she's moaning, the joke is she's a girl but she likes sex, which is stupid because most allosexual women want or enjoy sex. Or so I've been told. Pink just wears a gas mask and doesn't talk. The first episode is about Anarchy not being a good leader and needing the otaku in goggles to be the commander. This shit is nowhere near as funny as it thinks it is, and it's not worth sitting through all the painful stuff to get to the cool scenes. There are cool scenes, but it's a no for me. Megami no Cafe Terrace. Set the timer, and less than 1 minute to seeing a girl in a state of undress that she didn't want us to see. In fact, let's just get every girl in the show undressed before the opening. That's the cold open to this series. Naked girls. I watched a couple of ecchi shows last season. If your show has girls who want to be naked, want to be sexily dressed, want to have sex, that's cool. We need more of that in media. We don't need contrived situations to produce ecchi. Consent is sexy. What? The plot? Oh, I actually think this show has a lot of potential with the plot. Our main character returns to his grandmother's house/cafe after she's passed. They had been estranged, which he is slowly realizing was his own damn fault. He intends on tearing the place down and selling the land, maybe making it a nice parking lot, since it's the location right by the beach. Until he finds out there are 5 girls living there. See, when her grandson, her last family, pissed her off, Grandma made her own found family, taking in a group of girls who needed a space. They get room and board and community in exchange for running the cafe. And fuck, I wish the show was just about that. That would be amazing. And even with him there, I still think it sounds good. He learns about his grandma from the girls who called her family, refines his humanity. There's a good show here, and it's drowning in panty shots. Tosochu, Great Mission. We encounter a sci-fi society where the different social strata are also separated into vertical tiers, with the poor people living at the bottom and richer people living up high. I thought from the poster that this looked hideous, and it kind of does. Like, I was really worried about these CG agent-looking dudes, but they're not real people, so that's why they look like that. There's a TV show competition that's kind of a race, kind of survival hide-and-seek. Our main character is from the low strata. He doesn't even have the wristwatch needed to register for the race, but he uses his delivery worker parkour skills to get in. And the idea that no one has used parkour before in a situation that so obviously calls for it is really fucking funny to me. The contestants go into a kind of virtual world being chased by the agents. At first, that area is restricted, including video game invisible walls. They need to avoid being touched by the hunters, and there are also missions they can complete to expand the area, making it easier not to be caught. You would think that for dramatic tension the game would start more open and slowly close, but whatever. There are a lot of girls, which is nice. They're all standard attractive, pretty girls with normal body types, even though the men have a variety of body types, but what else is new there? This show is full of stuff happening. I think if it had stayed a bit more focused, it would have been stronger. It's kind of funny how they have to keep explaining things to the contestants constantly. Like, not only did they not know what they were signing up for, but it's as if they had never seen the game before, even though it's presented as a monumentally popular, regularly occurring event. The show is just a bit too much of a mess. It could be fun, though. So we're in school, but it's elementary school this time. All the kids in class bully this gloomy-looking girl, saying she has a Shinigami's glare. A transfer student comes in, and he's happy-go-lucky to the extreme, to the point where he becomes her friend because he thinks the Shinigami glare is cool. Like, you have a curse? Awesome! My problem with this show is that I'm a teacher, and it makes me really angry to think of all the shitty teachers at this school who don't notice this mega obvious bullying or work on it. Overall, it's a fluffy and cute show, but it's just aggressively not for me. Alice Gear Aegis Expansion. This show is based on a game, a sci-fi action game with fighting and stuff. This show is not those things. It's technically sci-fi, but for most of what we're focused on, it doesn't matter at all. It's honestly more of a cute girls doing cute things show. I found the first episode decently funny, and it had some Yuri bait, and I'd rather actual queer stuff, but I'd also rather queer baiting stuff than boring het stuff, so that's fine. In this world, we have actresses, which has nothing to do with acting or movies, but is the name for the sci-fi fighting girls who do the fighting stuff. As this had virtually no bearing on the 2 episodes I watched, I do not remember anything more than that with any clarity. Our main character wants to join the group of actresses that includes her favorite one. She isn't good enough, she does some training, and she gets good. I'm not a fan of the source game, in the sense of I literally hadn't heard of it before, but the show seems to have nothing to do with it. So I take it this show is for people who like the game, but like the game for the girls and not the game. I don't get it, but it is watchable. Tensei Kisoku no Isekai Boken Roku Jisho o Shirani Kamigami no Shito. Of all the shows this season, this is the one where I came to write the script and had to read all of my notes to remember what show this even was. Because this is generic isekai shit. Decently presented generic isekai shit, but the most positive thing I can say is that we dodged magical school. Didn't dodge the tits, though. Based on what I've read, this also gets harem-y later. Yay! In this world, getting baptized gives you game status windows, and also you may or may not get a blessing from a god. This is a pantheon, so that's fun. Except the idea of the show is that every god from the pantheon blesses this one guy, which is something he needs to hide from people because that's unheard of. I'm not sure I needed a scene of every god saying who they are and then saying, "and my sword, and my axe," to set up that he was OP. As I mentioned earlier, we don't go to magical school, but we do introduce his tutor boobs first. My god, him poking his head up over the desk is so cute. See, this is why the show is frustrating. Because I wish the content of the story were different, because the presentation is fun and makes me want to watch. And then they shove our face in boobs again, and nothing interesting is happening. Mashal. This show takes place in the magic realm. It is called the magic realm because it is a world that has magic. That's me paraphrasing the opening line of the show. Everyone has magic, to the point where they use it for general daily purposes. People have marks on their face that show something about their magical power. Our main character, of course, does not have magic. His dad has hidden him away in the forest to keep him safe and encouraged him to be strong, and strong he became. Mash does eventually get found out, and we get to the point where it's decided that he needs to go to magic school. He doesn't have magic. He can't learn to have magic or use magic, but we're going to magic school anyways. The first episode was extremely effective at what it was doing. I felt like the jokes were crafted well, even though they weren't super doing it for me. A lot of the humor is Mash using brute force to get around his lack of magic, and Mash being kind of simple. I think it's well made. I appreciate it not being a harem. I'm obviously not thrilled we're in magic school, and the humor ran thin for me, but that's subjective. I would not be weirded out if someone told me they really liked this. Kawaii Sugi Crisis. I love the premise of the show. An advanced agent of an alien empire, our main character, comes to Earth to decide if there's anything worth preserving from this planet. And I mean, her starting position is, do I even need to check, just blow it up? But she was wrong, because Earth has cats. Kawaii Sugi means too cute. The name of the show is Too Cute Crisis. Cats are so cute that she worries she's going to have a heart attack. And doubly so that her alien compatriots, who are less accustomed to foreign things, would. Actually, it goes further than that. Apparently, just about every animal on Earth is cuter than any recorded animals in the universe. So, go us. Now, it's obvious from the get-go that that's a very thin plot. That's one joke. And one joke they don't handle very well. So the question from the jump was, what is the show going to do to go beyond the one joke? And the answer is, it's a liar-revealed plot. See, she has to hide how cute Earth animals are from her people so they won't see them and freak out. Well, she sees them and freaks out, while they keep bugging her for reports. This is a great idea for a short, and less so for a series. Kimi wa Hokago Insomnia. A high school rom-com where our insomniacs meet in the abandoned observatory that this school has. I'm definitely not interested in high school stuff as a trope, but I will say that this feels more like a real high school than most anime, at least. Maybe except for the observatory. Our main guy can't sleep at night and thus is tired during the day. He's not helping much with the class prep for the festival, and he gets sent to grab cardboard by the observatory. There's one of those high school rumors about ghosts or suicide or whatever having happened there, which is thought to be why it's kept closed and locked. When he goes to get the cardboard, though, the observatory is not locked. What he finds inside is a sleeping girl. Turns out she has insomnia too, and this is basically her secret hideaway to steal naps during the day. They bond over this, sleeping in the observatory during the day and wandering the streets together at night. Very down to earth, very well done. I'm just not interested. The wandering the streets at night part reminded me of Yofukashi no Uta, which I also dropped, but if you liked that, you could check this out. Kono Subarashi Sekai ni Bakuen o. I'm someone who hasn't seen Konosuba yet, so maybe it was a weird choice to check out this prequel. I've been learning more and more that it's not a trope I find particularly funny. And this show is Chunibyo Magic School. The first battle lesson we see is how to look cool, to a point where they haven't even studied any magic yet. Megumin wants to learn explosion magic because she saw a mage do it once and thought it looked really cool. She won't be dissuaded by teachers telling her that it's literally the worst. As a prequel to a successful property, the quality is quite good. I just personally didn't find it funny at all. I worry that doesn't bode well for me liking Konosuba. But I don't know how this compares to the humor of Konosuba. Sometimes a joke that works in a side character doesn't work when it becomes the main joke. Kaminaki sekai no kamisama katsudo. Oh god, I remember reading the plot description for my preview video and being like, what the ever-loving fuck? So, there's this guy. He's the son of a cult leader. The cult is putting him through a trial of faith or whatever, which any not indoctrinated person would immediately recognize as being fatal. He can't convince the cultists of this, though, and thus is killed and isekai'd. This show has a strong point of view. It has comedic timing. Unfortunately, it also has weird sex stuff. Not the stuff I'm usually bitching about. It's not like constant ecchi POV shots. But I'm a sex-repulsed asexual, so I'm pretty sensitive to this stuff. Also, the CG is terrible, but I've heard tell that it shoots the moon and reaches heights of terrible animation that turn it back around into being fun. What I will say is this is definitely not a standard isekai, and if you can handle some risque jokes that I can't, it might be a fun watch. Pokemon Shinsaku anime. Obviously, they can afford to have really nice animation. The simple designs also tend towards fluidity. Sprigatito is adorable, although the Japanese name is better. The first episode started in school, which is like, why? God, why? But it does seem like we'll be departing from there shortly enough. I don't have the patience for the child-friendly pacing, personally. But if this was an alternate universe where I had a child, I think I would be very happy if this is what they chose to watch. Ao no Orchestra. Our main character is an excellent violinist, as he was personally taught by his famous violinist father, but it turns out said father is an absolute scumbag, and our main character quits violin on principle. But he was also the kind of guy who only really had the one thing going on, so now he has nothing. In this state, he meets a girl who has a genuine love and enthusiasm for violin, but she sucks. By helping her out, he slowly warms back up to his passion for violin. I really enjoyed the first episode. Felt like it really slowed down after that, which was a rough choice because the show looks terrible. Especially when they go to the high school and we start seeing scenes of a full orchestra playing, and it's like, I am willing to watch a show that looks bad if I'm enjoying it in other ways, but there was not enough enjoyment here to compete with how shit it looks. Isekai Shokan wa nidome desu. In this isekai, an entire class of Japanese kids have been brought to another world. But one of them? He's actually been the hero of this world previously. He looks different than the first time, but he's just as powerful, and his past colleagues remember him. The show has some advantages over the average isekai. There's interesting animation and color direction going on, and we're not going to magic school. They also built a more believable relationship between the main girl and main boy in 6 minutes than in some romance shows I've watched. But misogynistic anime tropes are just creeping their way in. All the boys are taught swordcraft, all the girls are taught magic. Femme characters' clothes hug them in ways to emphasize their body parts. And then there's this girl. Once she realizes the main character is the past hero, she has a complete personality change, submitting to him instantly to the point of being his chair. And I'm not trying to kink shame here, but this is not a person, this is a character. Someone gave her this trait as a source of misogynistic humor, so it's not great. Also, I have to ask, how old is the main guy? Not his current body, but with all the rebirth junk that's been going on, how long has he been alive? I'm concerned because he has a romantic subplot going on with a high schooler. Yeah, despite my concerns, this is still an improvement over the average isekai. Just not a very high bar to clear. Otonari ni Ginga. Our main character is a princess from an island near Japan, but with a culture so different they may as well be aliens. In fact, her biology appears to not strictly be human. She seeks adventure, wanting to leave her insular community. She's also a weeb, super into manga, so she goes to Japan. She's copied the drawing and art from her favorite mangaka so much that she's able to get a job as a mangaka's assistant with her favorite mangaka. Anytime there's a rom-com about adults, I want to like it. Really, I do. I wish that all of the Star Princess shit was deleted from the script. It wasn't necessary. It felt like some weird fan fiction where there's all these relationship rules you have to try and keep track of. I spent most of each episode just kind of there. Sometimes it's funny, sometimes it's romantic, sometimes it's charming, but I was constantly pumping up the speed, and I never felt that excitement to see the next episode, so I dropped. 彼女が公爵邸に行った理由. Our main character dies and is isekai'd into the world of a book she's read. The downside being that the character she's become is the girl whose death sets into motion the plot of the story. She immediately sets into machinations to get herself out of this situation. The only way to solve her problem becomes making a deal with the devilish Duke. The Duke is the kind of noble secretly working behind the scenes to protect their crown, while outwardly seeming like a handsome fop. The show looks lovely. There's a lot of promise in the antagonistic interplay of the two leads. I don't know what was going on, but it just wasn't clicking with me. Maybe it's because they really felt the need to constantly remind us, I know this because it was in the book. Of all the shows I didn't finish in this season, though, if I had to watch one, it would definitely be this one. Skip to Lofa. Our main character is a serious, studious country girl moving to the big city away from her family to go to school.
今日はきっと完璧な一日になる。
Oh no.
今日だけじゃない。私はこの高校生活、ただの一度だって失敗。
Oh no, girl. During her struggles with the metro system, she encounters an easy-go-lucky guy who helps her out. While this is a high school romance, it's also seinen, which means the target audience is slightly older than the usual romance stuff. As such, the show definitely has a strong sense of character. But I'm so old. I like their homeroom teacher more than any of the high school characters. This seems very high quality, it just did not hook me. A high school rom-com has to hook me. I think if you use the first episode as a vibe check, you'll know if it's for you or not. Tengoku Daimakyo. We're in a post-apocalyptic Japan. There's still a decent chunk of people around, but it's nothing like the before times, and a lot of technology has been lost. Also, there are monsters. We're unclear whether they were the cause of the downfall or a result of the downfall because, let's be real, the survivors on the street are not going to have a clear idea of what happened. Especially long enough after the fall that there are teenagers who weren't alive when it all went down. Our cast is split cleanly in two. In this season, we spend most of our time with a boy, Maru, and his bodyguard, Kiruko, as they make their way through the wastes. They're both searching for things, and going to make it happen together. Also, somehow Kiruko has a kick-ass gun that can defeat monsters, if they can manage to keep the thing charged. There's also a group of children being raised androgynously, living in a peaceful facility, going to school, and, spoilers for this season, doing mostly nothing. Their setup. I'm sure shit will get real in subsequent seasons, but this season is really Maru and Kiruko's show. I walk into any show like this super worried that it's just gonna be a mystery box. I got mad and dropped Lost 3 episodes in because I could already feel that it was not interested in ever solving anything, just piling more and more mysteries on top. But this show is refreshing. I never felt like they'd lost the plot, and I feel like things get revealed more so than anything. This show is weirdly cozy for a post-apocalyptic show where people die in horrible ways. There is some content warning stuff that happens later on, which was really a surprise. I kind of expected more of it over the course of the show, but then when it hit hard. I do not regret having watched this. There was cool and interesting stuff. But I've also reached a point, especially with how the finale of this season ended up, where I don't think I want to watch the next season. Watashi no yuri wa oshikoto desu. This list is a combination of shows I like and shows I would recommend to people. And sometimes there are shows where I like it, but I wouldn't recommend it to someone unless I happen to know they're into this specific thing. In my youth, when it was difficult to access anime, and I was especially eager for anything queer, I watched a bunch of Maria-sama ga Miteru, a Yuri anime about girls at a Catholic school. It was slow as shit, and I'm not saying I have fond memories of it, but back in the day, if you had access to a show, you watched all of it. This show is about some girls running a cafe that is basically Maria-sama ga Miteru themed. So they're using the tropes of that show to entertain guests. I find it really refreshing, swapping back and forth from the fake Maria-sama's stuffy, slow Yuri vibes to the more modern melodrama between the girls. And I can say something I rarely get to say. This show is not queerbaiting! There are honest-to-goodness lesbians here. You're not going to see a lot of action, but there are lesbians. This is a very femme-heavy institution. All of the staff, owner, manager, cook, are girls. And thank goodness, because it would be weirder if there was a guy making them do this. No, they're fans of a series of Maria-sama Gamiteru-esque books, and the guests are also fans and represented as being of various genders. Our main character has coasted on being pretty and falsely cutesy and sweet all her life. I won't share how she gets roped into working at the shop, but a lot of conflict is her having to work for the first time in her damn life. I would not say this is a great show. In fact, I felt a sense of resignation watching it. Like, yeah, I'm gonna watch this. But if this is a thing you have nostalgia for, then you, like me, are the target audience. My Home Hero. This is just about the least anime-feeling anime I've ever watched. Like, it actually felt weird to me when there was an opening theme. This is a tense drama of a family man in Tokyo trying to outwit some gangsters in order to keep himself and his family alive. Look at it this way. If an isekai harem with an overpowered protagonist and a tsundere main girl is a 10 out of 10 on the anime trope scale, this show is like a 1 out of 10. My favorite part of this show is that it's just deeply Japanese. The little cultural things. I don't think it would be hard to follow if you haven't lived here in Japan, but having lived here in Japan, it felt so real. You know, it's a life or death situation, but you've got to take off your shoes at the Genkan. Watching this felt like reading some serialized story in an old magazine. Lots of episodes either end with a cliffhanger or a twist. It weirdly also reminded me of the first seasons of CSI. Like, back when the cases were really down to earth, they had to make the cases more bonkers in an intentional move away from tips that would help regular criminals, and this show feels a little too helpful. The main reason I don't like this show better is that it's not playful. It's serious and dramatic and tense, and it's doing that well, but that's not a thing that I personally seek out in media. It did keep me watching, though. Birdie Wing Season 2. This is a Yuri bait golf show. It's on the insane side of anime sports, so they have special attack names for their golf shots. The show is focused on the rivalry between two girls, our main character Eve and the young Japanese superstar Aoi. The first half of the first season is a must-watch anime experience, where we have underground mob golf matches with lives on the line. The show never reaches that height again, but the rest is still fun. It's just a bit more like a soap opera. Also, this show is accidentally really shitty because it cares too much about genetics, but that's just me being unable to turn my brain off. The drip in this show, though. Seriously. Eve is way hotter than all the underbust corset miniskirt girls in anime, because it feels like she chooses her clothes and likes her clothes, and she's just such a headstrong badass. The first half of the first season I highly recommend. If you lose interest, then you can probably stop, because it doesn't get awesome again at the end or anything. I also would have raised this anime a full point on the out of 10 scale if Eve and Aoi had actually kissed. I'm sorry, if you're gonna Yuri bait me, just go for it. Dr. Stone, New World. Dr. Stone is a fun, science-themed shonen where a scientific genius Japanese kid is helping to save the world from the mysterious, civilization-ending petrification event that happened thousands of years ago. We're embarking on some seafaring adventure this time, which is an era of science I'm particularly excited for. This season introduces a couple of new characters, including a femme character that I like better than basically all the other women in the show so far, and a non-binary character whose whole thing is that they are the most fucking capable person around. They know what you need before you need it, and they have already solved your problem. I must admit, I have some issues with how women tend to be presented in this show, but at the same time, it honestly has more women with different body shapes than a lot of other shows. And the main character, Senku, really reads as Arrow Ace. I don't think this is the best series ever or anything, but it's solid. And I always feel happy when I look at an upcoming season and see that another course of this is coming out. Dead Mount Death Play. This show gets the award for being the most different from what I thought it would be. I thought it might be like a death game or death game adjacent, which I would be very down for. I was particularly worried that this show would be unbearable edgelord shit. And I was so wrong. This became one of my dinner shows. A show where I was like, I can safely watch this while I'm eating. I don't have to pay attention. I will be entertained. It's not going to do anything horrible. This show. About a literal, lich necromancer. What can I say? Death isn't such a big deal when it's not permanent. This is a reverse isekai. Our main character, the corpse god, uses a spell to put his mind/soul into the body of a recently deceased Japanese boy, Polka. Which is a remarkably not Japanese name, but whatever. This causes a few issues with the people who murdered Polka wondering why he's now walking around again. So there's a bit of solve the mystery of who put the hit out on Polka, but with this show it's just not that serious. We have a lot of femme characters. Actual characters, not just harem members or walking wank material. The show has nice animation, energetic fights, and a remarkably light-hearted tone. See, the corpse god, despite that name that he's made for himself, is actually a really nice guy. He helps ghosts resolve their problems and just generally wants to have a peaceful life. It's just that if you fuck with him, he's gonna wreck you. That's all. The show is kind of camp. There's also a lot of lesbian baiting. It's not a harem. In fact, the corpse god doesn't seem all that interested in romance or sex, which is a big plus for me. I genuinely had a fantastic time with this, and I will devour a second season. That's not the same as me thinking it's good, which is why it just misses out on my recommended tier. Niehime to Kemono no. A fantasy world with no isekai and no video game elements? Yes, please! There are beast people who have an interesting society that we're still very much learning about. They're united as one nation under the Beast King, but they're also different nations with different subspecies of animal folk. They have different roles, different social rankings, and tensions between them. The beast folk won a war against the humans some time ago, and no matter how much the beast folk may hate other beast folk, the real hatred is between beasts and humans. This also comes from the human side because there's a tradition of humanity having to pay tribute to the Beast King by sending him sacrifices. Our main character is a sacrifice. Being a bit too smart for her good, she realized at a young age that that was what her parents intended her for, and their eyes were always cold towards her. But when she meets the Beast King, turns out he has a secret of his own. And instead of killing her, he freaks out his entire court by declaring his intention to marry her. It took me a couple episodes to really get into this, but especially around episode 3 I got quite hooked. The show is still ongoing, and I'm quite enjoying as Emo Beast and the world's most optimistic sacrifice try to get their relationship recognized. It's mostly chill, but not to the point of it being slice of life, because there's definitely driving plot with challenges to overcome. It's just that the challenges are more courtly, and the solution often just involves sincerely learning about and respecting others. I'm enjoying it for sure. I'm not obsessed or anything. Update from September, Orestria. I am in fact obsessed with it. And finally, the recommended category. If you have limited anime watching time, these are the shows that I think are worth checking out. Kimetsu no Yaiba, Katana Kaji no Satohe. It's Kimetsu no Yaiba. Have you not tried Kimetsu no Yaiba yet? It's great. Except it's fucking terrible and I hate it. But it's so good. Historical Japan, humans in a war with demons, which are vastly superior to the average human. Demon hunters go through special training to be able to kill demons, yada yada. I hate this show because it has the worst filler/comedy episodes. But once the story of an arc really gets rolling, you get like 10 episodes in a row of the best battles and heartbreaking storytelling, and it's so fucking good. The plus part of this season was it had less of the terrible faffing around at the start. The bad part is, since this show does not know how to make a femme character I don't hate, the girl Hashira is introduced via boob bounce, and her fighting style is love-themed, and her sword is a pretty ribbon she can fling around. I want more femme characters, but I want this show to stop having women characters. Privileges revoked. I hate them all. Anyways, good shit, very fun. Can't wait for next season. Chigokuraku. A well-executed action show. It's not an isekai, it's not a harem. Has important femme characters. Looks great. It's not afraid to kill people. It's not a death game, but the ranks of our characters are definitely shrinking. It seems that Japan has found paradise, a rumored island where the elixir of eternal life exists. And of course, the shogunate wants that for himself. But the people he sent there either don't come back or come back as living floral monstrosities. So they hatch a plan. They get the most devious, powerful criminals they can. People so strong they're borderline supernatural. And an elite group of government executioners who are similarly excellent, and send them all to the island. The criminals are promised a full pardon if they bring back the elixir. Our main characters are an assassin, and the executioner who was sent with him. And I'm so happy they made the executioner a woman. With this time setting, they had all the excuse in the world to be shitty and make basically everyone a guy, and instead, they made Sagiri a woman, and made dealing with all the you don't belong here bullshit she gets from the other executioners a part of her story and her personal strength. But even more than Sagiri, our main character is Gabimaru the Hollow. The show opens with a series of attempted executions on him, where no matter what they try, they literally can't kill him. He wants the pardon less because he cares about his own fate, but because he wishes to return to his wife. Also, him being madly in love with his wife means that Sagiri is not there to be his love interest. Basically, we have a bunch of people with wild personalities, wild abilities, wild backstories, fighting wild monsters and hazards on a bizarre island. And this fucking island is a hell of a setting. The monsters are all weird amalgamations of different creatures, humans, and feature religious overtones. The characters themselves are weirded out by the misappropriations of various Eastern religions, and the weird ways they've been smushed together and used on this island. Which makes it a fantasy scenario that doesn't look like anything else I've seen before. The only downside to this show is that it was not finished in one season, and I do like a tight story. But I'm definitely hyped to watch the next season too, so maybe I'm a hypocrite. Oshi no Ko. This is the best show of the season. I have no doubt of this. But I do not know how to talk about this. I'm joining the many reviewers I've seen who say, just watch the first episode. It's a triple-length episode, basically an intro movie to set up the plot. And it is better going in blind. Don't read a synopsis, just watch it. Alright. This is by the author of Kaguya-sama Love is War, so if you like that, more reason to check it out. I didn't super like that show, but if there's one thing this author does, it's make characters feel like fleshed out people, not just tropes. And that's very much on display here as well. This show is gorgeous. It has everything. Themes. I can talk about themes. This show is very much about the entertainment industry. How it can build you up, how it can destroy you, how lies are necessary, how it affects the performers and their fans. Nearly every character in this show is on my best girl, best boy list, which is up next. So you need to pause this video and go watch the show now before you can watch that. Okay, bye! Best boy. Let's see. Runners up are the Corpse God, aka Polka from Dead Mount Deathplay. Protecting others and trying to make everyone happy, That's his goal. It's just that he does it with skeletons. Muichiro Tokito from Kimetsu no Yaiba. I think this is the first Hashira I've liked from start to finish, instead of just liking them at the end when the show is finished making me hurt. Gabimaru from Jikokuraku. In addition to being badass as hell, we get to see a lot of sides of this assassin. He's analytical in battle, but also willing to die if that's how he accomplishes his goal. We see a softer side of him as his time continues on the island, and you would kind of think someone gets harder in this situation, but not this guy. But my winner is Aqua. Look, I told you Oshinoko was gonna dominate. Why are you surprised? He's one of our main characters and very much the one driving the plot. He's the type to concoct a scheme to help someone. He comes off as very cold, but he's also fiercely protective of those he cares for. Best girl. How am I supposed to choose a best girl from this season? How am I supposed to choose a best girl from Oshinoko? Fuck. Quick runners up, because there's too many. Mom from My Home Hero. This is a family that has to deal with some fucked up shit that no one should ever have to deal with. But her answer is just, what do you need me to do? Amaryllis from Dr. Stone. The first impression is that she's a flirty, dim-witted, gorgeous girl. And that's what she wants you to think. She has purposefully honed her femininity into a weapon with the purpose of saving her village. Eve from Birdie Wing. Forever a badass. She's gonna wear what she wants, do what she wants, and do it her way. Yuzuriya from Jikokuraku. She honestly spends most of her time acting as comic relief, but she didn't survive on an island where many others have died by accident. Which brings me to the girls of Oshinoko. Ai is a charismatic mystery whose gravity affects every character, whether they've directly met her or not. Arima Kana is such a strong character, she threatens to take over the show. They've given such a detailed breakdown of how she got to be the way she is that she resists being classified simplistically as a trope. But I'm going to go with Ruby. Possibly controversial. I connected with her. Trying to be as unspoilery as possible, she's recently been freed from a chronic pain condition, and the beauty of her realizing that she can do whatever she wants. My own condition is much more manageable, but the idea of never having to deal with it again is so intense.
Good. Now it's time for the trans non-binary highlight.
So when I was initially recording this, my teleprompter died, and so I just did a conclusion and didn't realize that I totally skipped the trans non-binary highlight. So no face, sorry. Francois from Dr. Stone seems to be canonically non-binary? Ryusei says about them, nor do I know their gender. They're also awesome enough to be in one of my top lists. They're just literally the most confident person, able to anticipate demands before they come. Tengoku Daimakyo has some gender stuff going on. Firstly, all the students at the facility are being raised in an intentionally non-gendered way. And then there's this character. Due to some sci-fi chicanery, this character has a man's mind and memories inside of this feminine body. I can't get too much more into it because that would be mega spoilery, but this has implications that permeate the show. I've heard that this character from Skip to Loafer is trans. I only watched one episode of the show, so I don't know if it really gets into it or not. Jigokuraku has some creatures, the Tensen, that can shift from beautiful man to beautiful woman and back again, basically at will. I don't love that 5 of the 7 of them basically choose to spend most of their time as men. And also, they're villains, and their gender situation is meant to show how non-human they are. But, they're there. My voice is dying. My phone battery died, so I don't have a teleprompter anymore. And my camera died at one point, so this video is cursed. Overall, I was pretty happy with this season. The shows I didn't like didn't waste my time, and there were plenty of shows that I did like, and there was a lot of variety. Are we finally out of the isekai doldrums? No, but a girl can dream. The summer season is shaping up pretty weird so far. You can check out my summer preview video where I judge shows based on their posters. You can also see a Twitter thread where I have my summer first impressions. And maybe I'll have a voice next time. I don't know. I can't record any longer. Everything's dying. See you next time. Bye. No, I'm not re-recording. And we're not going to magic school. My camera is frozen. I don't know what to do about this. This is really funny though.